Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm going to talk about the business in more of like a general sense, right? So I'm just going to be talking about different aspects of the business and how I would do things and how I have done things, right? And if something applies to you, great, write it down, apply it, whatever, right? So first thing is building the belief in the business. It's always going to work when you're around people who dream, right? Because people who dream, I've talked about the dream a lot before, but basically people who dream, they know where they're headed with it, right? They know where they're going and they know where they want to be, right? And they're driven enough to do something like unorthodox in order to get there, right? Because they know it'll work, right? So when you're constantly associating, listening to CDs, reading the books, and just being around your group and your upline, those are all people that have dreamt, right? And most of them have what they already want, right? Like they have their dream. So just by being around those people all the time, it's always gonna work, right? You have to become one of them. You have to become a dreamer, and you have to like set your intentions basically, right? You have to come up with a dream, set down time restraints so you know it's a goal, and then you have to commit to it, right? And as long as you stay around dreamers and you stay around people that are heading towards a common goal, you're always going to succeed. You can't fail unless you quit. That's literally the only way you can fail in this business is if you quit, right? So the problem people have with committing is that they think as soon as they've joined the business, they've left the 95%, right? And they're just like, they wear it like with pride or whatever, and they're just like, oh, I've left the 95%. I'm part of the very few, the 5%, yeah. But they're not actually doing any activity, right? They basically joined the business to say they're in the business. They're not actually like doing work in the business, right? And without the work, you're obviously not going to get any results, right? So you've not actually left the 95% until you've actually joined the 5%. And joining the 5% basically means having that income and having that financial freedom, right? And that's people kind of get like hung up on that, and they think they've committed in their head, which prevents them from actually committing properly, right? So all those people actually have is the opportunity, right? They've got to actually leave the 95% and take the opportunity to actually leave the 95%, right? And back to the thing about being around dreamers, someone in the business probably has already attained the goals that you have, right? And that's not a go at you, because those people are nothing special, right? They just believed and they worked at it. And it's entirely possible for you as well, right? And I'm saying that because like, they're obviously people like you to have dreams exactly the same as you, right? And they've attained them, and you obviously haven't, but you're on your way because you're like listening to this video and stuff, right? So the business is definitely a vehicle that you can use to get your dreams, because other people have used it to get your dreams, right? And they're nothing special, right? Like you're just like them, right? You can duplicate yourself, right? You can be duplicatable, right? That's the only two things you actually need to do in this business, right? Is to be able to copy yourself into someone willing to learn, and to be willing to learn and be willing to like become a duplicate of someone else, right? So something I always say is, if you're doing the same thing today that you were doing 5 years ago, and you've not really had any measurable growth in any way or progression, then you're failing, right? Because you need to be in a crisis to get to that next version of yourself. You need to be like frantic, and you need to be you need to have a sense of urgency to develop yourself further and become the next best version of yourself. Because for where you are right now, you're perfect, right? But for where you want to be next year, the version of yourself right now is completely inadequate, right? You need to be in a crisis to develop, to become the type of person that has what you have in a year, right? And that's kind of what I always tell people, right? Because it is very true. In personal growth, I've said it before, it's always a journey, right? You never arrive, but you keep trying to arrive. You keep like writing the destination out, because you're striving for perfection along the way, but you never reach it, right? Because the main reason why we actually don't want to be perfect is because being perfect isn't relatable, because it's not attainable, right? So you want to strive for perfection, but what you're actually inspiring people to do is strive for perfection, not be perfect itself, right? So in today's day and age, the biggest benefit of the business is that we actually have a larger population, and more people now than ever are looking for a way to escape like the job cycle, right? So we've got a larger population, and therefore obviously we have a larger chance of success and a larger likelihood of having like a larger network, basically, right? And so as opposed to like traditional businesses where the startup costs can be massive, our startup costs are just names and time, right? And you can't really like run a risk on that. The only thing you can run a risk on is time, right? But if you look back in 10 years and you built the business and you had like a really slow start or whatever, you still invested that time. You didn't lose it. So the only way you can actually lose that time is by quitting, right? And even then, you probably had like a huge amount of personal growth in the business. So was it really like a waste of time, or was it an investment in yourself with your time, right? Because to me, that's far more important than the money, is the personal growth, right? And just having knowledge, it doesn't really do anything, right? So the stuff that makes you money is the activity, the application of that knowledge. So it's all good and well to listen to me, to take notes from me, to listen to your upline, to take notes from them, listen to the books and the CDs and everything. But if you're not applying the stuff that you're like taking in, there's not really any point in taking it in at all, right? You need to be applying this stuff on a daily basis. Every time you go out of the house, every time you're in the house, you need to find some way to apply it, because what we put into our brains is what we get back out, right? So if you're constantly trying to grow and in a crisis to get to that next version of yourself, you're going to become a different version of yourself, right? Like it's pretty obvious. So another thing about keeping keeping your motivation high is basically you have to keep dream building, right? So a lot of people, when they get into business, they build their dreams, they do the initial like dream building session, and they think that's all they have to do, right? But it's not true. You have to review your dreams at least once a year, right? And if you're not doing that, and then you're wondering why you're not as driven or as motivated to like build the business, and you're not doing as much as activity, then that's the reason why, right? So you need to review your dreams, and as you progress and as you kind of like attain your dreams, you need to dream bigger, right? Because dreaming is a skill. Like we have it at birth, so it's like an innate skill for us, but then it's discouraged throughout life, right? And then we lose it. So we have to get it back, and we have to build that skill by doing it, right? And dreaming big, once you start attaining your goals, it becomes far easier to dream big, because you realize how realistic that it actually is that you can attain them, right? And so when you are like writing out your dreams and your goals and stuff, if you find that you miss one, like say you wanted to sign up, I don't know, 100 people in the next 12 months, right? And you realize you missed that, you immediately set a new goal, right? You don't like wallow in like self-pity and be like, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. No, you immediately set another goal, probably harder, right? Because you need to set expectations for yourself right from the get-go. It's like riding a bike. If you're learning to ride a bike and you fall off, the first thing that you're meant to do is get back on that bike, right? Because when you don't, when you leave things on a negative note, fear grows, right? And negativity grows. So you need to kind of like set that goal immediately after you failed it, or maybe you reached it. You need to set another goal straight away, right? And so the last thing I'm going to talk about is like the objection of, oh, my friend tried that, it didn't work, right? So 86% of IBOs never actually show a plan, right? So when someone says, oh, I tried that, it doesn't work, they probably signed up, but they probably didn't do anything after that, right? Because 86% of IBOs don't show a plan, and like a lot of people are successful in that 14%, like seen by your upline, and everyone that you hear stories from is part of that 14%, right? And so you can be too. All you have to do is show a plan, apply the knowledge, be active in your own business, and you can have everything you've ever wanted. You can have your time back. You can have your life back. I think that's amazing. And have a good night, guys.